you can turn yourself into a walking Times Square.
Yeah, why not? You know, the mug, the cup, the branded swag, everything should happen. Anyway, folks, welcome to everybody. Brain Food Live on air, bringing it to you every Friday, no fail. And we are coming to the final couple of shows, folks. It's episode 348. We've got this week and next week to go in terms of reviewing the year that's just gone. And then that's it. We've got a mini break. We've got about a 10-week, maybe even 2-week break, because the end of December, beginning of January, essentially we're taking that off. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining the show throughout the year. Hope you've enjoyed it so far. And of course, today we've got a very exciting show for you because we are reviewing 3 super important topics in the recruitment world. It is sourcing, what has happened in sourcing in 2025, employer branding, what is the state of EB? We've got Steve Wall coming in. He's going to drop some sort of data for us. And then we've got RecOps, recruitment operations, talent operations. I thought AI would blast this down and kill it off, but I think it's the opposite has happened. And there's a number of reasons why that may be the case. And I think RecOps becomes an even bigger part of the picture for us in 2026. So we've got brilliant guests coming on to talk to us about this, and very excited to be here with you. All right, let's do some sound checks real quick. Folks, if you're watching this on Crowdcast, do let me know whether the audio is good. Let me know in the chat whether you can hear and see Adam and I. We're also broadcasting this on LinkedIn here as well. So if you can hear and see this on LinkedIn, do let me know. Rob Walker, thank you so much for letting us know that your LinkedIn is going fine. And shout out to Rob Walker, by the way, who's one of the perennial live streamers for us. I think every time we go live, he goes live broadcasting our show, which is absolutely fantastic. And in fact, anybody can also do that, by the way, free to do. If you want to do more video, probably the cheapest and easiest way to do video on LinkedIn is simply restream to other people's podcasts. Very, very simple way to get eyeballs onto your stuff. Doesn't have to be me. If someone like Josh Burson does it or some big brand does it, the chances are you might be able to just restream that through to your audience. And why not? That might give you some extra traffic. Anyway, good stuff. We have to thank our sponsors, of course. Without our sponsors, Brain Food Live cannot continue the show. And as ever, this week has been sponsored, and one of our favorite sponsors of 2025, who will be back in 2026, I'm happy to say, is of course Ashby, the ATS that everyone has to talk about, leading innovation, leading sort of UX, super. A leading community, actually, do some brilliant stuff in terms of contributing conversation to the community. So let's bring on Willem Wijnands, actually. He's going to come on and talk to us a little bit about it. Some exciting sort of announcements as well, I've just noticed today. So I'll be very interested to touch base on Willem on this, and we'll see where we go. Just as an aside, when Willem is coming on, I should let you know that the big list of recruitment events to attend in 2026 is now updated. So all of the 2025 sort of events have been blocked off. We're now fully onto 2026. And I'm going to share the link in the chat stream right here, because if you haven't bookmarked this already, you should. There's 100 sort of events for you to attend there. And my message to you guys is bookmark the spreadsheet, add to it if there's any events that you notice that you're attending that aren't on there. And in fact, just share it to other people as well. Completely free and open for everyone to access and indeed contribute to. So we want to collect everything together so we know what's going on. And Willem is here, and I just saw an announcement from you, Willem, to say that sort of a couple of Ashby events are happening next year, aren't they? Why don't you kick off with that and tell us straight away what's the news there, mate?
Yeah, we just in time, for this awesome episode, we announced 2 Ashby ones, user conferences, but very much also tailored to non-users. We're doing a recruitment operations track, kind of like recruitment operations, one of our big pillars that we're building upon. Also a hiring leadership track, and we're doing one in San Francisco in May, and one in London, which I'm obviously excited about because that's over on the European side. Our first one in the Protein Studios in September 9th.
Fantastic.
So 2026 is I'm an events manager now. I have nothing to do with recruitment anymore.
Do you know what, Willem, though? I love it, though. I've seen you traveling and I've seen you sort of connecting with these local communities and stuff, and I think it's
Yeah.
fantastic. Great for you, obviously, but also great that a company like Ashby is investing in this ecosystem sort of approach. Because I think that's just beneficial for the ecosystem generally. But I do
Yeah.
think it's also a smarter way to try and build that retention, build customer acquisition, rather than just blasting people at the front door with marketing or sales. So yeah, really, really smart. By the way, yeah, have you just shared? You have indeed just shared them. So fantastic stuff. Get in there, folks. I think it's free, isn't it, Willem? Like what's
It's
the
not free.
story
We
with
do
these?
we do ask for a small, like, compared to kind of like the conferences that I've been to, it's kind of like for free virtually, but we do have a small commitment that we want. Basically, skin in the game is great if you come, like if you've paid a small amount, and there's just a little bit more, a little bit more excitement around it also to come. So it's a small fee, nothing out of the ordinary. But yeah,
What
it's
is the fee, Willem? How much is it to turn up?
I think it's around $100 or something. It's on the Ashby One page. Let me check.
If it starts with the number one, I think I'm all right with it. So yeah, folks, check it out. And by the way, stick it into the spreadsheet as well, because that spreadsheet is going to include all kinds of events, paid and non-events. I think the only rule of thumb I'm going to make on that is that it has to be an in-person event rather than webinars and stuff.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
it's
it becomes
125 quid, and then that's the early access. And then for every additional ticket that you bring your team with, it's 75. So
that's really
we
good.
don't operate this as at a profit, but we basically want to give back to the community. So
Yeah, I think
and
that's
it's
totally
like,
fair.
it's been great in San Francisco last year, so I'm super excited that we get to bring it to London this time around. Because Europe is,
Fantastic.
it's almost 35% of our business, and we've kind of like prioritized European hiring from day one. Yeah, for me, having this in my kind of like home base, obviously I'm in Amsterdam, but London is close to heart. Yeah, it's just super exciting.
Yeah, great to be there, man. Absolutely. So Willem, I think everyone knows about Ashby in any case, but I wonder whether you might be able to just tell us a little bit about it, and maybe you can reel off some of the things that people sort of Ashby have done this year in terms of products that individuals out there might want to be aware of.
Well, we started out 6 years ago, basically with the premise of bringing as many tools that we would buy as TA leaders in one closed ecosystem and do it well. So I think we've succeeded with that. We've shipped a lot of AI functionality. The biggest one is kind of like our AI note taker, but we have a content assistant now. We're building more agentic mode into the ATS, so really doubling down on that. I think basically a track for startups. Like we have a very, I'm a startup guy. We're building a product for smaller companies, but also for bigger companies. And we've seen kind of like growth in both of these, kind of like the enterprise 1,000 plus, but also the below 1,000, even like also the smaller companies really being successful in Ashby. So a lot of people ask me like, what's the perfect size for this? I don't think it's the sizes. It's like, how serious do you want to take your hiring? And those kind of companies tend to thrive on Ashby. Yeah, like basically we've crossed the 3,500 customer mark now. We've doubled already at the beginning of December. Like we're on our way to kind of like go 125%. So also in these times, kind of like it's just insane to see the maturity now in the TA ecosystem. People really prioritizing talent, which obviously I remember 2022, 2023, people were thinking like, oh, is there still room for talent? You just mentioned like, is there still room for RecOps after AI? I think basically we really amplify these TA teams that want to do better, and yeah, I'm here for it. Like I obviously joined very early on 6 years ago when I already saw it, but it's great that it's now happening at mass. So yeah, just great to be celebrating this one of these final episodes with you all.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, Will. Final question, mate. Because you put sort of one of the things that Ashby do really good at is also produce like these talent reports and these
Yeah,
data reports and so on. Is that something that you're going to continue to do in 2026? I
yeah.
hope
There's
the
one
answer is
coming.
yes.
Like obviously, we discussed a little bit on like some data. Like we nearly have kind of like a look back um, comparison between Americas and European companies. So that's going to be really really interesting. We now also have kind of like baseline data for 2 years. So we have a lot, like a sizable chunk of data now for companies that have been with Ashby for 2 years, where you can do some really deep analysis on. So yeah, the talent trend reports are like every quarter we do one, and we're planning to release one soon on kind of like the look back of comparison to 2024 and what it looked like in 2025. Not
That
today, obviously had to produce a conference, but next up is the talent trend report.
Definitely let me know when that's out, Willem, because that's something I'm sure all of the Brainfood community will be very interested to see. So fantastic stuff. Ashby folks, make sure you check out the product itself. And of course, Ashby One, it seems that their show is on. So pop
Yeah, let's
yourself
go.
along and get speaking with the people directly, as well as with the customer base that are already using it. Okay, Willem, great to see you, mate. Let's hang on with the rest of the show. It's going
Yeah,
to be a
well,
good one.
have
And
have fun.
we'll
Bye
catch up soon, man.
bye. Bye bye.
Good stuff. It's great to see success stories, great to see great products, great to see things motoring along, which is fantastic stuff. Anyway, we've got to motor along, Adam. So let's review the newsletter real quick. Give us a couple of things that was interesting for you last week, mate.
Well, as has become traditional in the last few weeks for me, I want to focus on the poll first. So, your poll said, has AI increased your productivity and by what percent? And has it not? 10%, no, 16% said it had increased productivity by 100%. 91%, so the vast majority of people said it had increased productivity. You said, I think, around about 10%. I'm much more than 10%. I'm probably 40%, I would think. I've avoided tens of thousands of legal fees this year from that. Um, what really made me laugh, though, was the 3% who said that it had decreased their productivity. And I'm thinking, what the
Mm.
fuck? Are these people like addicted to chatting now or something to their large language model friends? Or how could it decrease your productivity?
It may well have. I mean, I think that there's a few people that are cynical about AI's impact. I think that's fair enough because depending on how you use it, maybe it doesn't have that huge an impact. But it was interesting. Most people said yes, it was a productive increase, but the variance was quite large, and most people were at that 10% mark. So incremental, a little bit better, a little bit faster, not dramatically so. But yeah, interested to get your, at some point, Adam, we'll probably have a deep dive to see from your perspective where it's knocked out bits of work and increased capacity. Because as a CEO, probably doing 101 things, I'd be interested to know how you've just deployed it and blasted it out. Maybe that's a brain food live to go in the future. Adam Gordon in the hot seat. Adam Gordon plus AI. How does all that work?
Well,
Excellent stuff.
I can have actual conversations with my technical colleagues now, and I understand what they're talking about. That's one aspect. But those 3% whose productivity had decreased, I mean, the only way I can think about if my productivity decreased is if I'd turned ChatGPT into my girlfriend, my AI girlfriend, something like that. I don't know. I'd love to know
That,
in the
and
comments if
that
it's decreased. Tell us what you've done.
that does happen as well, to be honest. There's people that have kind of these parasocial relationships with AI, which is probably not good. But there you go. You can waste a lot of time sort of interacting with it. So there you go.
Okay,
Anyway,
John Vlastelica from Recruiting Toolbox wrote. He's talked about this a lot over the years, but it was a really great article full of resources, all about the future for recruiters is becoming talent advisors. It argues that the traditional transactional kind of tasks around sourcing and interviewing are going the way of the dodo, and instead recruiters need to reinvent themselves as advisors to hiring managers and advisors to the business. I pretty much agree with that. However, there are stormy seas ahead. And that is because if you are filling jobs and you can claim, I've brought in 60 salespeople this year and they're making 4 million quid for the business in bottom line profit, that is a straightforward ROI for you to the CEO. If you can say, I provided some really great guidance to people. That is far harder to quantify. And I don't think we're living in an age where anything that doesn't directly link to top or bottom line growth is getting any airtime. And I think people are, quite frankly, getting fired if they can't demonstrate how they're impacting sales, profitability, or building product. So the talent advisor is going to have to be very, very careful to link what they're doing directly to hard metrics.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. Where you and I may have a separation is I have yet to. I think it's possible to try and quantify that human value added. It's difficult, but I think we need to do it because there is more to it than just putting bums on seats and getting those people in. Even though we're going to do what we're measured. So, guess what I'm trying to say is we've got to try and figure out some measurements on what those what that so-called higher value work is. Can we actually find the language to describe it? So that's basically what my mission is going to be in 2026. I'm going to try and help define the language, maybe broadcast it a little bit because, I think it's hard to disagree with John Lasterleak at the best of times. So anyway, really good resource. Check it out. One more, Adam, before we get on with it.
Okay, hard to disagree with Johnny Campbell at the best of times as well. However, I'm going to a little bit. So he's written an article which is dismissing the concept of time to fill as something that includes a whole load of different variables around. It doesn't take into account role complexity and recruiting effort and candidate quality and all sorts of different factors. Now, Tim Sackett wrote about this recently on LinkedIn. And when I say wrote about it, he wrote about 4 words, which is, tell me another fictional story, I'll give you one, time to fill, or something like that. It was just completely dissing it. My response to that was, I am sure there is such a thing as too slow. You're not getting the jobs filled fast enough. And he said, well, yeah, but I mean, the problem is how do you, every job's different. Every job is different, but you absolutely can quantify every job, as Bradley Clark has done, who we had on Recruiting Brain Food about 3 or 4 months ago. He's got an actual framework for measuring the labor required for each role, including things like scarcity of talent, how senior the role is, the competitors of their, that organization's pay, and all that sort of thing. You absolutely can quantify every role and put a real meaningful time to fill metric so that you can, demonstrate your team's performance. And so I do disagree with the widespread dismissal of that, but probably everybody here hates that. And so come at me in the comments.
Yeah, I think you're wrong as well. I'm going to go with a strong endorsement of Johnny's perspective. The reason why I think he was not so much critical of the time to hire, he was more critical of the idea of it using sort of mean averages to the extent that, you might have a couple of outliers which just dramatically change your time to hire number, even if, the median average is what you'll be looking for. It's the same idea as GDP. If you have 100 people earning money, but you got one guy who's a billionaire and everyone else is a penniless, is earning minimum wage, the mean average of all of that is that everyone seems to be doing all right. Whereas in fact, there's one person doing extraordinarily well and 99 people on the poverty line. I think what Johnny's saying in this regard is to say, look, it's too broad to use time to hire as an overall. You got to go down as to what the median average is rather than mean. Anyway, we'll get Johnny back on. He can argue with you at another point. All right, let's get on with this.
You knew I was about to reply, so that's fine.
We've got to move on. Let's talk about sort of this topic. We've got to get our guests on ASAP because they're the ones that know what they're doing. But let's cover it firstly so we're going to do it in 3 tranches. People are going to come on and off. So don't be too surprised if you see a rotating cast. But our first person coming on is one of our favorites. It's Alla Pavlova, of course, who is just such a diamond when it comes down to providing amazing resources and support to the recruitment community at large. Just inviting Alla onto the show, oftentimes co-host here in Adam's stead. Somewhat of an upgrade, I might add. But there she is. Oh my goodness, there she is, Alla Pavlova, looking amazing with that lilac background. That's a new paint job, isn't it, Alla? When did you do that?
Not the painting, so I'm using the lights around the table. So yeah, painting would be challenging to change. So it depends on the mood. So
Yeah, it
today
looks
is
great.
this.
I love the soft background. I hate my background. That's got to change, but the way you've done that looks brilliant. Anyway, Alla, people who don't know you, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Hey, I'm Alla Pavlova. I'm based in Amsterdam. I'm still hands-on recruiter, sourcer, trainer, AI enthusiast. I do a lot of prompting, experimenting. Yeah, and I still see a lot of great opportunities that we can do recruitment with AI. So happy to be here.
Yeah, brilliant to see you here, Alla. And do connect with Alla. I've just shared her LinkedIn sort of URL in the chat stream there. Alla, I've asked you to have a review of sourcing in 2025. It's been obviously a really interesting sort of period within the sourcing community. We've seen the end of some venerable sourcing events. SourceCon, I think, ended this year. We've seen big sort of moments like Irina retiring, you know, the one of the pillars of the sourcing community. All kinds of new tools coming in that seem to be providing changes with regards to how people identify candidates and so on. What's your general take? How would you describe 2025? What are the key moments and trends? What can you tell us about sourcing, Alla?
Sure. I like how Adam is challenging the audience, so I would like to do the same. So my opinion is that sourcing is automated. So it's taken by AI completely. I would like to see the comments if anyone is agreeing or not. Because recently, for the last 3 months, there were three very big updates in the one on LinkedIn. So we have MetaView sourcing, and we have, of course, Juicebox People GPT sourcing. I was testing all of them because they have this intelligence behind. And let's start with LinkedIn very quickly. So probably, yeah. So sourcing was supposed to be automated because this is the part of that's very logical, very keywords driven, and something that can really be picked up by Gen AI. I can actually, I don't know if how we have time to share the screen because I can show some of the things, but I will start very quickly with LinkedIn AI as hiring assistant. Basically, I was lucky to be one of the first people to try it out, and but I still hear a lot of resistance in the community. Even Irina Shamaeva, she was also challenging, but I can tell you one thing that you can do differently to get different results. With any tool that is saying that it has AI agent, try to train it. To train it, you need to give feedback. So I used LinkedIn AI Hiring Assistant for a month, and I gave feedback every day. Every day it was giving me 5, 10, 15 new profiles, and I was explaining with my just normal language why this is a good profile, why it is not a good profile. In a month's time, I have 100% accurate pipeline sourced for me. No questions asked. I can hit one button, yes, I'm accepting everyone. This is my experience. And if I think the biggest takeaway for me is if you don't get results you expect, don't just give up so easy. Just try to find out how you can actually change the answers. It can be from prompting, from giving feedback, and after I did that, so all my hiring managers wanted to get this project to themselves because now they have candidates kind of sourced in there. So it's like LinkedIn. So, but I also have tested Juicebox AI agents. It does generate leads for me every day, and I can say how many leads I want. I can upload so many things in terms of JD. I can tag people that I think that they're great, and then I open my project, and I can
Olive,
go.
before you do that, quick one. We've got to protect people's privacy on this.
Sure.
So
It's not a real project. It's not like real project.
Good. Yeah.
No. I would no show.
Yeah.
No, that's it. That's actually the reason why I can't show LinkedIn. So this is a fake project just created before. So it's just to show you, it has agents that create generate leads for you. You just go there, and you approve them, disapprove. You can ask your hiring managers to approve, to disapprove, and that's it. So yeah, like not using the real profiles. Similar like meta view sourcing, I just put the prompt like this. Like, it's so easy, right? So it says like, show me pro developers in Portugal for 5 years. They generate the JD and they generate the candidate list for you, and you can again click on click. So I'm going to stop sharing. Again, this is not the real searches, because my client will not allow me to show anything real, but this is the point that I'm trying to make. The tools became so advanced. Do I source now? Not really, but I have I have to kind of build the pipelines every day.
That's really thanks for being very candid and very clear as well. I mean, we have a problem with being equivocal when we talk too much, but you're very clear on where that is. Sourcing is finished in the old sense, of constructing Boolean searches, manually going through a database. I mean, folks who are listening to this, like, what are you feeling on that? Do you think Ala's right, or is she just being a bit controversial here? Do you think these tools do have the effect of really eliminating that human search? I think it's a very powerful statement. And having used some of the tools as an amateur, let me emphasize, I'm an amateur. I'm not professionally using these things. I'm not actually hiring for people. I am super impressed with the ability to operate. I'm pretty certain now that things like hiring assistant are already will produce superior results with me as an amateur on it than me just like spending time resourcing. Like, it's already better than I am to do it. Maybe that's different for an elite resourcer. I totally get it. And an elite sourcer probably will still have some sort of plus edge. But for 99% of the people, it's going to do the job. And it's, big change for us going forward. Okay.
Quick question for me.
Go ahead, Adam.
It seems to me like every ATS, CRM, independent like point solution provider is offering some sort of AI sourcing product
inside the ATS. Yeah.
I mean, well, everywhere. I mean, I just see new ones all the time coming from established players and brand new startups. Would you agree that it's complete chaos in terms of the number of different people providing solutions?
In a way, yes, but there's only a few good solutions. That's as true, I think, with AI as well. Like, when I was promised to be automated completely as a source eliminated, it took companies some time to eliminate me as a sourcer. So I would say it's also very important that the tools that you're choosing are compliant, and so they are also, supporting all the legislation, all the privacy, all the other things. I'm looking for the tool that will be really great to source inside the ATS, because I don't know yet any tool that will be good at it, because the reason we have sometimes such a brilliant people inside that we lost and we forgot. But I think the way how I can do it, I can also prompt my ATS AI agent and ask, year ago, I interviewed the candidate. I remember this candidate was from Uber, but I have no idea, and some other tips that I can give, so that basically this tool can find information based on the notes or something like this. So I kind of want to have more decent sourcing tools on the market.
On that note, Ala, and this is an open question to anybody who might answer it, what is the best tool to source your own pre-acquired candidates? So let's say I've acquired 100,000 people in my system, whatever system that is. Who is using a tool that seems to work particularly well with those pre-acquired? We're not talking about open web. We're talking about it's in our system. It's on a database somewhere. How do you search it? I'd love to know in the comments whether you have this. I think lots of companies are doing it. I think Adam's right. One of the things that we have seen is that one of the impacts that artificial intelligence has is that it's really compressed, if you like, the product development lifecycle for every business. So it's much easier for vendors to build software products that previously would have been completely out of scope. And so we're seeing lots of different products enter this space. ATS is for sure going to produce their own sourcing solution. We're going to have all kinds of, I think it's a positive thing to have loads of different things going on. It means that consumers have a choice. It may end up being as well that all of them end up sort of converging in terms of general performance level, which means that it becomes a big commodity, and then it becomes a question of integration, cost, compliance, UX, or even just fashion. certain tools are more fashionable, right? The tools you mentioned, Ala, they're pretty fashionable, pretty cool.
They're easy to use. That's, I
yeah.
think, necessary, because sometimes you suffer.
Okay, so what is the future then for sourcing? What's your advice going forward, Ala? I mean, do you have a perspective on this? A lot of people might be thinking, "Oh my God, sourcing's automated." Okay,
No,
does she mean?
there's a hope. There's a hope.
Go on, give it some hope.
I think one of the ways you can look into it is to become a little bit more advanced on the talent intelligence. You need still sourcing skills, and you can start using technologies like a notebook LM or any model to gather talent insights. Like what is going on with people, what skills they're trying to develop, what are technologies, when they're moving, and what education is necessary to close this and that. So I was playing with talent intelligence information recently, and to be honest, the quality of the reports that I'm able to bring at the table to talk to hiring managers made me look even better when I was sourcing, brilliant candidates and bringing some pipeline. I would say sourcing skills are really helpful for anything you do in your life. You're better at searching, you're better at discovering, filtering information as well. So if anyone is looking for something to do next, try to use, as I mentioned, like it's a free tool. Notebook LM is my favorite. I'm using it like every day for a lot of purposes. Or try to use any model and start investigating what's going on in the market. So that would be my advice. And sourcing has different meaning now. We still need to qualify candidates. So the finding candidates is there. AI is already given us. But to validate and to train AI that is a good candidate for some different reasons and for some context, and also, of course, we know bias, we know all these TNA questions. So I think we still will need to give sourcing a human touch, and talent intelligence is my next toy to play.
Yeah, really, really good, Ala. And yeah, just a few more things I'm thinking around the edges. There's a lot of candidates, a lot of recruitment going on where basically digital footprint may not be like the biggest way to find that candidate. So obviously, maybe that's advertising more than sourcing, I guess. But I mean, there'll be ways in which sourcing may still be useful for that. Exec search, the highly skilled in demand that have deliberately kind of obscured their digital footprint because they don't want to be inundated. That's still going to require sourcing. And as you say, maybe it switches entirely to engagement, Alap. Is your
in person.
Is your key value your ability to get a response from people? Because the AI is going to identify them, but maybe AI isn't going to be that good in getting interaction. So, yeah, super interesting. Alla Pavlova, brilliant to see you as ever. Thank you so much for giving a very clear, concise vision of what it all looks like. By the way, anybody who disagrees with Allah's position, please do so politely. We want to be able to speak frankly on all of this. But I'd love to hear your thoughts as to, is Allah correct? If not, what's your opinion on why that is? I'm sure we would all be happy to have polite conversation on that. Okay, Miss Pavlova, listen, I'll let you go. Great to see you. I hope I'll see you soon. Probably won't happen before this side of Christmas. So let me wish you all the best for your Christmas holidays. And of course, we'll be chatting in between times sort of throughout there as well. So Alla Pavlova, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. Thank you. Bye.
This is what we need, Adam. More frank, like clarity in terms of, okay, yeah, it's happening like this. What are your thoughts, by the way, Adam?
More truth.
Totally automated?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We need more truth in the world, and Allah brings it. So, yeah, absolutely. Entirely automated. And there's other elements of recruiting which still should go the same. But sourcing was always led by technical people who wanted to work out new ways of doing things. And of course, there's a cult in that area, and all the people come together with the smart brains and competing with each other to come up with the best answer, like sourcing competitions, for example. And they're gonna innovate quickly.
Yeah, I agree.
I love sourcing. I love sourcing people.
Well, if you imagine, I was here before sources actually emerged as a discipline, as a separate discipline. I observed that go on. And the great Glenn Cathy, who also, I think, along with Irina, probably one of the big popularizers of the concept of sourcing as a distinct discipline, described it really, really elegantly. And he said, look, a sourcer is basically someone who interrogates an inefficient system to extract human capital information. So in other words, the system doesn't do what you think it does. If back in 2010 you typed into Google, find me a Java developer in London that's available over the next 6 months, it's not going to come up with any information that's relevant for you. And your skill as a sourcer would be to think about how a traditional search engine operates, and then put in Boolean operators to extract that specific sort of bit of data that's very difficult to extract. So it's dependent on inefficient systems that didn't understand human language. Now we have AI. I type exactly the same thing in 2025 into ChatGPT or something, or Gemini, you know what? It might actually produce a bunch of candidates, or one of these specialist source tools. It does produce legit lists of people I can connect with. So it removes the skill required that inefficiency produces. So yeah, very interesting. Okay, sources, don't give up. Loads of things to talk about. We're going to do forecast episodes early next year. So we're going to see what the world of sourcing looks like in 2026, early in January. Let's move on. We're going to get Steve Ward on to talk about employer branding. Steve, where are you, sir? Let me see if I can drag Steve out from the chat. I'm sure he was chatting at some point. There he is. Let's invite him on. Now, EB was another one of these, which I thought, you know what, AI is going to nuke this, because suddenly everyone can produce content, and do we need all of these creatives working in TA? I've completely changed my tune on that again, and I'm now a bullish AF on EB, but we'll see what Steve's got to say about it.
I've got some challenges with EB, but it's not from the same angle as that. I'll come on to it with Steve.
Yeah. Steve, I've just invited you. You should have a pop-up to say, there we go.
Hello.
There he is, Steve Ward, looking magnificent with that beard, by the way. Look at that. Proper Christmas beard, mate. I love it.
It's got a little bit woolly, hasn't it? It's it's been cold, and like I say, I haven't. So,
mate, you got to do what you got to do. Anyway, Steve, great to see you. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do, mate?
So, hello everyone. I'm Steve Ward. I've been knocking around EB and talent attraction for years. I now run independently as a global EB strategist as Beyond Cloud9. If many of you might know, I used to run an agency called Cloud9 10 years ago and more. I'm now Beyond Cloud9 because we've moved beyond those days. So I do that, and I also run a community of EB professionals, which used to be a lovely London thing called the EB Club, the Employer Branding Club, but 2026 sees that go into about 20 European cities next year, which is awesome, which is why I said earlier I need to add a whole bunch of stuff onto your lovely spreadsheet, because we're going to gather employer brand geeks all over Europe, which is fun. I spend a lot of time listening to a lot of time listening to people, so I like getting EB people in the room.
Yeah, 100%. Make sure all of those meetups that you get in and stick them in the spreadsheet, because I'll be pumping that spreadsheet every week. Basically, that's my plan. So everyone's going to just get a big distribution on that. Yeah, fantastic stuff. All right, Steve. 2025 employer branding. Where are we with this? What's happened that's interesting for you? What's your general take?
Yeah, I think there's three things I kind of want to try and see if we could squeeze into this bit, but we'll see what we get. Crisis. There's a bit of a crisis in corners of EB right now. Evolution is the bit that obviously comes into that, and then we'll try and capture a little bit about AI in that, and then what the needs of the world are right now in terms of candidate market, because we've never needed EB more than ever in terms of really understanding how we should be talking to talent, and talent needs things differently to what they did last year, for example. And so I think the crisis bit comes from AI. I mean, let's be honest, but it isn't just AI. It's budgets. It's that's because of lack of ROI. People aren't very literate at being able to communicate ROI. So I did a big research project this year when I was with Blackbridge and working with a global network. We did a global research project. There's a big white paper out there. People can connect with me if they want a copy of the white paper. I'll happily share. It's really fascinating. Very proud of the body of work that it was. It demonstrated a lot of challenges around the fact that employer brand professionals don't know how to articulate ROI, can't will say that they are data driven, but can't communicate effectively the things that their business is asking for from EB. What's the consequence of that over the course of 2024 and 2025? Loss of jobs. The EB community has unfortunately suffered a lot. The agency market is having a really, really tough time this year. And a lot of that comes from AI as well, because I think we are bullishly running into AI solutions for creativity that are good, really, really good. And that's a challenge to the human creative professional, the copywriter, et cetera, et cetera. And so we've got this wonderful divide within the industry around whether actually we are losing our skill in creativity to AI, or whether we actually can work out how we hold hands together. And I think there are some great examples of holding hands together really well.
Right, good stuff, Steve. So very quickly on that, basically the EB sub function as a discipline. There's been a period of crisis in 2025, existential crisis, so to say. We've had, obviously, companies no longer hiring at the same scale as they were. EB particularly was required when it was like, let's compete for talent. There's not enough people. We need more applicants. Suddenly everyone's got applicants. So you need more EB in that context. I can imagine that sort of narrative being argued against. And that's seen budgets chopped and people kind of being chopped out as well. So that's basically the crisis element. And you mentioned also some of the core capabilities of Gen AI at basic level. We've talked about sourcing as one, being able to ingest and pull information out. But on the other side, it's to be able to produce information, which of course copywriting, some graphics, some all that type of basic stuff actually might have fallen into EB at one point. Now, actually, any man and his dog, so to say, could probably go and produce something that's passable.
Yeah, and I think this is, in part, in the research that I did, I listed 19 elements of employer branding to the big sort of global in-house community as to where is AI being integrated successfully into your organization. And what was quite clear is that the creative element, job descriptions, writing copy, crikey, some of the video tools now are incredible. That was being utilized a lot. Not loads, still to a modest level. Where EB still exists, and remember, EB is such a broad thing. Strategy, no. Insights, no. Delivery, no. The thinking part that requires us to kind of have our expertise as kind of saying, whoa, hang on a second, in that market with these group of people, you need to be thinking A, B, and C. That's the bits that AI isn't so good at, and I know that because I've tested it all year, and it's pretty crap. And it's like, so that's fine, and it's okay that AI could be crap sometimes. It's because actually there's some things it's not. In fact, one of the really interesting things, I was sat in a conference earlier this year, and it was smart recruiters who posed a really good question. They asked us around our tables to put into ChatGPT or any other model that was on their phone, what does the future of employer brand look like in 2020, 2030? What will it look like in an AI-enabled world in 2030? And ChatGPT basically said, well, hang on, you're going to be really good at this because we need you for this. We need you for empathy. We need you for ethics. We need you for this. We'll cover this stuff. We're going to be really, really good at it. And it almost tells you what the future looks like, where we should grow our EB capabilities and where we should drop it. So look, it's an evolution piece. I think, but the problem is it's a cannibalization problem at the moment. It's threatening people's jobs, and that's where I think the AI part is. But at the same time, candidates are changing, and the recent Universal research that just came out last month for the professional hires, 57% of professionals in the research are looking for a new job in the next year. Now, to give you context to that, it was 42% in 2024 and 37% in previous year, before that, 2023. The lack of trust in leadership and their organizations is dropping massively. So people are ready. There's like there's open ears, there's a readiness for it, and blah, blah. So there's a need for the kind of the whole EB skill, clearly, but at the same time, it's not but we're killing it at the same time. It's a real, I think it's a battlefield at the moment. So I think it's a partial crisis, partial evolution, depending on which way you look at it. I'm an optimistic guy, so I like the evolution route.
Thank you, Steve. Go on, Adam. You're going to say something terrible, so go ahead.
Yeah, so can I, absolutely. No, I agree with everything Steve just said, and the lack of trust was very clear in the Edelman's Trust Barometer results that we saw, which you featured in Brain Food on Sunday just there, Hung. And lack of trust in your employer is really like going up a lot. But actually, compared to lack of trust in things like religious institutions and governments and other like organizations, it's actually not dropping as fast as it is in other areas. But Steve, I agree with everything you said. My worry for employer brand is a bigger picture thing than that. And the bigger picture thing is, I said this last week and probably the week before, I think we've moved into an era of what I would call employment brutality. I don't think the CEO gives a shit about the people who work in their organization. They want less people in their organization. They do not want more people in their organization. And as a result, anything that's not bums on seats, just get the job filled, get that person making money, or get that person building product, it goes back to what you said around the ROI thing. But I don't think it's to do with AI so much and things like that. It's more so because of the environment we're in today, and I'm not entirely sure that's changed. And I listen to a podcast every single week, 20 VC, it's venture capitalists talking about what they're investing in. They are inevitably investing in the startup technology companies with the littlest number of people, the biggest revenue potential, and the products that are going to enable other companies to hire as less people as possible. So that's my worry for employer brand.
I think the evolution is clear. There's two things that relate directly to that. One of the questions I put in the research was, what are you being asked to measure? I didn't put what are you measuring. It was quite an important stipulation. I wanted them to be asked to say, what are the leadership asking from you to measure? All the metrics that really, it's very strange. There's a vanity, because at the top of the funnel, which is brand perception. The number one thing an organization expects its EB professional to tell them is their brand perception. That was the number one thing. However, 58% of those professionals don't know how to do it, don't have a reasonable, comfortable ability to do it. Then there's this sort of the bit that we're all so used to, the kind of sort of the nurture zone and the attraction zone. They don't want to measure. They're not interested in digital metrics in the chain like it used to be, or down the funnel like it used to be. All the next measurements were in what's happening on the careers page and the application environment, and what's happening when they get inside our organization. Are we, whether that be retention, whether it be quality of hire, etc. So I think that's where there's another evolution. Now, that is linked to the fact that the majority of EB involvement now is an HR function rather than a talent acquisition function. And that really blows people in EB roles around a bit, because they probably came from a talent acquisition or marketing minded mindset. Now they've got to, the adaptation is around people welfare, our people keeping our best employees. To your point, you're absolutely right, Adam. Yes, everybody, if given the option, they could reduce 10% of their workforce, they will, but they want to keep their real high quality people. That's really, really important. So the shift away from attraction into retention and the experiences of people in the organization is really important. And the reason that actually is a very good thing is because in the attraction process, the best way to engage talent is recognizing the real experiences of people inside the organization. What's the truth? I hate the word authenticity, but advocacy. Let's use advocacy, because advocacy is so important in quality EB outreach. So yeah, a good point, Adam.
Steve, on this, I've seen this kind of merger between EB and like internal comms. I've seen some sort of scenarios where they've just collapsed that boundary and said, you know what, does that align to this idea that EB's kind of turning inward a little bit?
Yeah, very much so. Again, another question, you'll see it if anybody wants that research. I'll try and see if I can link it in, but otherwise just contact me on LinkedIn and I'll send it to you. We asked, where is it going? Like, where is it? And it's that old age, where is it owned? Who owns it? HR and talent are absolutely becoming the primary zones where this exists now. There's a question on a WhatsApp group I'm in just a couple of weeks ago that asked this too. It's more towards people, talent management and the like. It's definitely evolved. I think it's a really good thing. The only challenging thing is that environment tends to less know about performance metrics in terms of other areas of employer brands. So it's just, like I say, it's constant evolution. It's a really difficult zone, I think, at the moment for people to survive in. I'm seeing some brilliant people survive brilliantly in it because there's some superb humans out there in this industry, but I can see also the challenges, and that's why I've expanded the EB Club, because it's become a kind of a lean-to for a lot of EB professionals. It's quite a lonely job usually inside organizations, and so the EB Club. So that's why I've expanded it across, because actually everybody's trying to challenge themselves as to where the hell, how do we sit, and where do we go right now, and how do we win?
Yeah, I love it, Steve. And the reason why I've turned bullish to EB, even though I agree that maybe it's a contraction phase. I think the contraction is associated with the original mission of EB, which is the increase in number of applicants. That's going to change. But what I think is going to happen is that it's very important for the authentic voice of the business to be transmitted in an era where AI will be the kind of default sort of way in which people will encounter information. It's going to be, everything's going to be AI generated, in which case the thing that is not AI generated will be the differentiator, something I call the conspicuous human. So if companies are able to elevate conspicuous humanity in their businesses, I think that will resonate with job seekers that don't want to see more Gen AI videos, for instance. And I think EB comes back in that way. So anyway, maybe that's a long-term bull. I don't know.
And just because I saw it in the notes there on the side, like personalization at scale, I think that's the future of all of this anyway. Less about big noise. Candidates don't want the big idea anymore. We can't talk about sustainability any longer and inclusion and all the big things. They're less bothered. Companies aren't talking about those things as much. People want to know what it's going to feel like to be there. And so I think personalization, people like me doing jobs like me, fulfilling career goals like me, in a safe environment like me, that personalization scale is absolutely the goal. And that can only be done through our people really effectively.
Yeah, I'm going to say it now. The day in the life is going to come back in a completely different, tonally different. Right.
I think it already
totally
has. I've been in the crux of it this year, where the day in the life as such has changed to be a little bit more real rather than staged, and almost like the walk-in camera type of feel about it. I think it's I've seen examples of that. There's some award-winning stuff that Blackbridge Show I was working with did a little bit of that. It's evolving. It is evolving. It's less, remove the stage, bring in the humanity, bring in the reality.
There we go. Modiara Camps, the world needs to see your day in the life of. Get on it, my dear. All right, Steve, listen, we've got to move on. We'll have to let you go because we've got the RecOps section to come. Great to see you, sir. Hopefully we'll catch up this before Christmas. Maybe we don't get the chance, but if not, let's get it in the diary for January, mate. We need to connect and see what you're up to, fella.
Good to see you all. Thanks, fellas.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, folks, we also got to do something which I've completely forgotten to do last couple of weeks. We have to make sure everyone is super connected going into 2026. Brain Food Live is a conversation starter, never should be a conversation ender. A big part of the reason why we're here is because we want to build on our knowledge, but also build our network value. So I want to make sure everyone continues to have the opportunity to do that. Best way to do it is to grab your LinkedIn URL, stick it in the chat stream. If you're watching this on Crowdcast, if you're watching this on any of the LinkedIns out there, my LinkedIn, Rob Walker's LinkedIn, anybody else's LinkedIn, just grab your LinkedIn URL, stick it in the comment thread there, and then just connect with everyone else who's done the same. Now, the reason why everyone's going to accept that connection request is because we're all doing the same thing. So you will walk away from this with minimum 50 plus new connections, which is going to embellish you for the task ahead in 2026. So go ahead and do that. Okay, we're going to go and bring in our final couple of guests here. This is Jeremy Lyons, who's been hanging on in there. We'll also have Chloe Morrison as well. Let's have a look at Chloe. I haven't seen Chloe for a little while. She's still here.
While we're bringing these guests on, I made a little joke in the chat. So if anybody that's not like watching this on Crowdcast, you won't see this, but I made a little bit of a joke around like the whole day of the life storytelling thing. it's now just like employees just on their phone constantly, like being influencers on TikTok and like videoing themselves having a matcha latte or whatever, and then going to the work gym and all that sort of stuff. Should we be actually putting in some kind of a program? Does anybody do this, which is really actually rewarding, people for showing a day in the life, or is that just going to encourage people pissing about doing nothing but being an influencer the whole time?
I think there have been instances where that happened. I remember IBM, I think back in the day, did something like this where they rewarded people simply to talk about their business, about their lives, and it just got people looking. So, but yeah, it should be more mobilized. There's no doubt about it, because it's very, very powerful. We have Chloe Morrison here. Chloe, wonderful to see you. You're looking very festive as well. Wonderful to see the red. Chloe, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Hi, everybody. I'm Chloe. I'm a recruiting operations program manager. I've been doing that for almost 5 years. And before that, I was a recruiter. And I do a lot of compliance, a lot of systems, and for the last few months, a lot of security.
I know, and I've shared some amazing sort of bits of content that you shared with me, Chloe, about sort of how the RecOps has turned into just a key function in improving the security of the recruiting pipeline, because recruitment is, of course, one of the most high risk sort of apertures in business. Like recruiters open a lot of emails from unknown people. We download a lot of stuff from unknown people,
and we click on all the links and all the portfolio and all of that. So yeah.
That's right. Just Jeremy, I've invited you to come on. You reloaded your screen. You might want to try and refresh your browser, Jeremy, to give it another shot, my friend, and see what happens. But whilst Jeremy's getting back on, let's get on with the show here with regards to your views on 20. Oh, there's Jeremy as well. Jeremy, great to see you. Great to have you,
great to be here.
Sir.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks for persevering with the tech, Jeremy. Jeremy, why don't you quickly introduce yourself as we're doing intros? Who are you?
Jeremy Lyons, co-founder of RecOps Collective. I get to engage with all of you fun people as we talk about how RecOps has expanded across the world and as a function. So great to see Chloe here. Avid follower of when she puts out stuff too as well, and everybody talking above.
Great stuff, Jeremy. Great to see you. Just shared the link of both of those cats into the chat stream. Do make sure you connect with those folks. Let's do a quick overview. RecOps in 2025. What are the big themes, the big trends that you've seen happen this year? Has it been a good year for RecOps? I mean, we've heard about EB and saying EB's been kind of crushed a little bit. What's the situation with the recruitment operations? Where's the focus of the organization going? What are the general trends? Big questions there. So anybody want to give this a shot? Chloe, why don't we go you first?
Sure. So I think for me in 2025 on the RecOps side of things, that the tools that sold us AI are actually doing AI and not, a fancy named algorithm. And AI is finally providing value to support and enhance recruiting. And for me, that was really like the big pivot for this year. Jeremy, do you agree or not?
I mean, I do think it's one of the big pivots for this year. I think one of the couple of bigger themes have emerged within recruiting operations. One, it is a idea of how do we explain our existence beyond what it has been. I think there was a long period of time where we were just viewed as, hey, you're recruiting coordinators plus, what do we need you for? And then I think the other thing too that now we're starting to see that's going to probably start carrying is that a lot of recruiting operations teams have carried on this recruiting as a product mindset. So you're hearing recruiting operations folks talk more and more about our activities, the things that we're doing very differently than we have in the past.
Yeah, very interesting. Let's not forget where the kernel of where recruitment operations came from. Probably fair to say that coordinating interviews was a big component of what was previously RecOps, right? And then maybe, obviously, it's then expanded into things like recruiter enablement. It's expanded into things like looking at the right tools to implement. Then it expanded into, okay, what is the optimal way to do the job of recruiting, and can we create the infrastructure for all of this? And so there's that maturation of the RecOps function then moves it further into, I guess, maturation is also elevation. I guess that's probably what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
I mean, I think that it's to build on it, and I'd love to hear Chloe's opinion on this too, which is I think that right now, one of the things that I've heard at least consistently on the US side has been, well, recruiting like everybody does. If you're a head of TA, everybody does recruiting operations. And I think one of the things that we're moving away from is this idea that everybody can operationalize what they're doing in the way that it needs to be thought about. I think recruiters had very much for a very long time thought about, I have one role, I have one hiring manager, I have one pipeline. I'm going to do everything I can to fill that role. And RecOps on the whole has thought about, how do we take this and systematize it? How do we give that white glove treatment not to one candidate, but to all candidates and make it scalable? And so that is, I think, where we're going to start to see some friction points. I think we're also starting to see the rise of the recruiting engineer role going into 2026. And that's going to be really fascinating to touch on what Chloe had mentioned with AI doing AI stuff. We've now had to get very technical very fast as well.
What do you mean by recruiting engineer, Jeremy? This seems like a fairly new term in the industry space. How is that different from, let's say, a RecOps person?
I mean, what we're seeing is that these are the folks who are really going and needing to be the AI experts for their teams, but not just being the AI experts for their teams, being able to think almost as if they are the most technical person on a recruiting team, and how do we make recruiting a little bit more self-sufficient? So these are people who are maybe using your Zapiers, using your Replets, your VOs to build candidate-facing portals or build things that will extend. And that's not just, hey, let's vibe code something. That's like really getting into the weeds of that. A lot more ATSs have started to make themselves a little bit more accessible with their APIs and their webhooks. And just in general, it's this idea of a more technical person. Martin Redstone has talked about it. Benjamin Mena has talked about it. I think we started to see it in a few people. Viet Nguyen at Vercel has kind of moved into that kind of role and has talked about it. And certainly other communities that are popping up, thinking PromptMates, Jason Miller, Joe Atkinson, those folks are really kind of leading this charge to a more recruiting engineering kind of feature.
Yeah, in Europe, we've got Guillaume Alexandre and Pierre-André Fortin that have been doing that a lot and building tools for the recruiting community.
Yeah, so basically, go ahead, Adam.
I was going to say, to me, pretty much every traditional business function needs to apply more engineering principles, whether it's accounting or it's HR or it's marketing. We all do.
Definitely.
Sorry guys, I was on. I thought it was.
We all just wondering how to react to that stupid comment.
Operations are used to blowing people's brain, blowing people's minds. This is what we do.
Let's talk about the security aspect, folks. I think security is unfortunately going to become an increasingly large component of talent acquisition's function. If you just teleport back 5 years ago, security wasn't even sort of mentioned. It wasn't even in the mind space. Maybe if you're working in a particularly high security, highly regulated environment, perhaps. But at best, it was a couple of background checks you do at the end of the process, and post offer, let's just check this guy out, type of thing. But now, of course, we've got a couple of dimensions where, firstly, distributed work. We know that remote creates a huge risk area for people, for companies, generally speaking, because you don't know who's actually making the application. You don't know actually who's going through the process, even though they have applied. Secondly, we've had this economic sort of problem globally, economic precarity has increased. So the motivation of doing things that, things like overworking, for instance, or, closing more jobs, securing more than one payroll on a permanent basis than perhaps you should be doing, that there's a reason to do that, simply because the economic environment is tough. And then, of course, you've got all kinds of cybersecurity challenges where the actors may be, outright criminals, or maybe they're spies from a hostile government or whatnot. All of these things are vulnerability within the recruitment process. Where do you see RecOps doing any jobs there? Do you think it is RecOps function to try and harden this process, or is there another function that does that? What are your thoughts, Chloe? You've probably got to go to you on this, because you shared some interesting information about what your business has been doing on this side.
Yeah, so I think that it's not just going to be RecOps, it's going to be a cross-functional partnership. And a lot of companies do not have a RecOps team to do it anyway. So, I would say go and talk to your security people. There's at least one person that does security. And I think the problem is even wider than what you described, because we're ranging from people who are using AI to embellish their resume. I've seen people who have created fake companies just because, it made their CV look cooler or their resume look cooler and get them more interview. And then obviously on the other range, we've got the nation state actors, right? Now, you don't have to be, target for any of that to have to deal with it, right? And everything that we're going to do in between is going to go into that. And that's not just the remote roles either. That's not just the US. That's everybody. Everybody needs to get into that and to learn about, the fake candidates or the DPRK worker scheme, right? There's the Parek of the world from, was it July or August? The guy with like 7 jobs.
Soham Parek, the king of overworking. Brilliant.
Exactly.
Not
so he's in the middle.
Soham,
Right. Now, as RecOps, we have like a role to play on the enablement of recruiters, like, flagging that those things happen, how to recognize them. The training part of it is where we're central, like we're liaising between, say, HR for background checks, security for all the baddies of the world that are there, and the recruiting team, and making sure that they are aware, that they know how to react, that they know what to do. There's also the interviewers that need to be trained as well, our hiring managers, all of that. And like we're kind of the pivot of all of those branches. It's an octopus. I'm sorry, it's Friday afternoon. My English is all gone, but you get it, right? Central and multiple branches.
Your English, no one's ever going to complain about your English standard there, Chloe. Don't you worry about that. No, but isn't this exciting, Jeremy? I mean, are you motivated by this cybersecurity angle, or do you think, oh my God, this is not what we're here for? We have to do it. It's just a kind of an unpleasant mucking out of the job. Or is it actually quite a thrilling part of what you got to do, And like, what's your vibe on that?
I mean, I think that I'm a little different because I've worked for a couple of cybersecurity companies. So I'm now like, oh, okay, what layer of cybersecurity are we talking about here? But I do think that one of the more interesting elements to the discussion around fraudulent candidates that I'm not hearing enough of is that a lot of companies over the last year have been building fraud detection. Ashby built that in this year. Greenhouse, their partnership with Clear. A lot of people are working on this. I think even Zapier, a couple of other people have built native tools to try and track where's the IP address and those elements are coming in. So we're getting there. I think one of the problematic elements of it that I see is I think that there are a lot of recruiters now who look at a role and they see like, hey, we've got 1,000 applications. All of these are fraudulent. Is sort of the same argument that was had a few years back when LinkedIn added the easy apply button and now everybody was just clicking apply and it's like we have too much volume. And so I think one element that kind of becomes key within the RecOps group is, yes, we're technical and we're moving people towards more technical solutions, but we also have to remind people of the humanity that's involved and that the numbers are all that could be representing real people. You can't just easily just dismiss everything as being fraud. And I think that's something that is very vital in the recruiting operations role when we add security, when we add those elements of how do we add something that's more human instead of sort of saying, hey, can you put your hand up next to your head and like your face and wiggle your fingers around to tell me that you're a real person that we're talking to.
Yeah, that hasn't worked since June anyway.
Jeremy, I do thank you for making that point. I think you're absolutely right. There is like that false positive problem. And there also is a racial profiling problem. Because, you know, when we're talking about, I've seen a lot of the fraud signal sort of products, and they're typically saying, look, we're going to draw a bunch of different things. We're going to try and look at sort of where they don't match and stuff like this. But there's some obvious use cases where things don't match. Give you a classic example. Let's take a look about marriage or divorce, name changes. Like oftentimes people will have different names in different documents in different databases. It's the same person. They're not trying to be fraudulent. They're not trying to describe themselves in a different way. It's just simply progress of life. And yet that potentially is a fraud signal, because this thing might be matching different things and starting to spot, hang on, Jeremy's calling himself this in one place and there's something in this another place. We're going to just give him a -1 on some sort of measurement system. And that drops your rank down somewhere, or it puts a flag against your profile. That's a problem.
Well, and I think to your point too, Hung, there are industries where it is easier to change your name, and there are industries that are harder to change your name. So if you're building tech with one industry in mind that's going to be applied, it's going to make things more complicated. I think medical roles and medical licensures, there's a lot of people who are like, I'm not going to change my name because to go through getting all of these things changed is just not worth the time, not worth the effort, not worth the money. And so I think that's when we're going to start to see a little more niche counting of those roles, because, yeah, to your point, if you change your name, it shouldn't be sort of like starting over in that kind of sense as a flag that you're fraudulent. Everybody changes their names for different reasons.
Yeah, it's go ahead, Adam.
To me, this is an example of, like, this was not something we were talking about 3 years ago or 3 years before that. And, you know, in recruiting, things change all the time, as they do in business in general. But there's a never-ending stream of enhancements to processes and technology and things like that. And that's why, to me, RecOps is the most future-proofed area of a talent acquisition organization. And why anybody, I said it in the chat, but again, for anybody that's not in Crowdcast, for any recruiter that's watching this, if you're looking to really future-proof your career, get involved in any RecOps projects you can to get your foot in the door into this area, because it's going to be a growing part of the talent acquisition organization from now on.
Right. So Adam's made a strong assertion there. Chloe Morrison and Jeremy Lyons, why is he correct? Like, what's your opinion on the future of RecOps and Adam's observation there?
But why
Jeremy,
don't you
do
go
you want
first?
to take it?
I was going to let you go first.
So I think it brings us back to what you were saying at the beginning about the hiring engineers or the recruiting engineers. Like, the more technical we get, the more secure we are that, all the things that can be automated, somebody has to automate them and maintain them when they break, because things will inevitably break.
Yeah, very interesting. So the more technical things get, the more technical we have to get. And who's going to do that? Maybe people who've already put themselves into this RecOps function. Jeremy, your thoughts?
I mean, I think my thought is that nothing is future-proof. The only thing future-proof is your curiosity. And I think that if your idea is that you're going to get into RecOps to keep everything being the exact same and hold the line on that, you're doing your company a disservice. I think that if you are somebody who is naturally curious and you want to see the system change, that is the perfect reason to get into the recruiting operations space, because we don't just touch one pillar. We're there on the operations connects to program management, connects to data and analytics, connects to strategy, connects to employer brand. If you're somebody who loves to watch the whole machine be built and be a part of that, and stay curious and stay innovative, then RecOps is a fantastic place for you. It's not just sort of a place that I would say that you're going to just go and park it and say, hey, I've done this thing so well every single time. This is where I need to go.
Yeah, so it's almost a continuous improvement function, you can imagine. Absolutely. It's there to constantly reinvent existing processes, ideally get ahead of the curve in terms of how businesses operate, position the organization in that way. It ultimately turns into a strategic function, really. So yeah, very interesting. I mean, just to give you my opinion, I was a bear on RecOps because I thought, oh, I was one of these guys. I beg your pardon, Jeremy and Chloe. I was one of these guys. Thought, you know what? It's generally coordination, isn't it? Like interview coordination. Okay, tech's gonna just blast this out. Then I thought, hang on, no, because there was a huge adoption problem with AI. Like people were playing around with it, but to actually do the transition, do the change, I'm now convinced it cannot be done without a specialist actually doing it for you. And I think that's RecOps. Basically, it's going to be the function that doesn't have headcount, that has the ability not to be distracted by the need to deliver candidates, to then engineer the right process, implement the right tool.
Well, Hung, I'll go on
Jeremy,
record in saying this. The reason that position that you took several years ago was one of the reasons why I started my RecOps newsletter for everybody. So you are actually one of the reasons for why the RecOps Roundup exists, is because of a direct response to me going, hey, wait a minute. There are people out here who are here doing this work for a very different reason that we need to sort of talk about from the outside in. So
that's
take
brilliant.
that with it does change.
There we go, folks. There's the value of being publicly ignorant. It actually generates responses from other people that want to correct you, which I'm a totally endorse. So well done on all of that, guys. Listen, we have to come to the end of this because we're literally over time, but I want to thank Chloe Morrison and Jeremy Lyons coming on, talk to us about RecOps. I am bullish about the function, and I think that if you look at the ratio of recruiter to RecOps going forward, I think that ratio will increase, basically. So I'm very positive on that. Thanks for sharing the Substack as well. Go and sign up to that, Jeremy. Serve everyone. And we'll have to let Chloe and Jeremy go for now. Great to see you guys. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Cool. Whistling through all of this, I mean, obviously every show could have its own segment, but yeah, really important to touch on all of these types of things. Folks, we are coming to the end of this show. Got one more to go before we finish for the year. That is going to be on economics and AI. We have got some massive hitters coming in, including people who've been like literally ennobled by the government. So we've got Neil Carberry, OBE, Officer of the British Empire, coming to join us. We have the Right Honourable Chloe Smith. I think she's a CBE, isn't she? I don't know. But she's joining us as well. And we've got Belinda Johnson, who's a wonderful researcher on labor economics. They're joining us next week to talk about the state of the economy, because let's face it, everything we've talked about so far is downstream from the economy. Let's understand what 2025 has been for us, and we'll project forward going into 2026. We've also got some AI to talk about, so I might bring in some interesting characters that talk about AI for us, and how that dovetails with the economic piece. That's where we're going to be. Register that show. We're live. Follow the channel if you want this type of conversation to continue. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching, everyone.
So see that show next week. Can we just go completely off script and make it highly political?
Inevitably political, but I'm not going to stand here and and I'm going to defend Labour. I mean, I know it's uncool to do that, but basically, I don't think they can do anything. We've got some like wider issues. The UK basically, I don't think has got a rudder in the water. You know what I mean? We're going where the eddies take us. So we've just got to perceive where that's going to be. Anyway, Adam, you've obviously got some sort of Christmas pudding to eat, so I'm going to leave you to that.
Banana bread sandwich. Thanks.
Banana bread sandwich. All right, enjoy.
Cheers. Bye.
I'll see you next week, mate.
Bye.
All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next week.